Hey y'all, it is Crystal Nicole, and I'm back for part two talking about the book of Esther. So I promised to get this out, and I've been busy. This is the only free day I have this week. It is like 2 a.m., so let's do it. So I spoke about how Vashti lost her spot as the queen and how Esther gained it in a previous video. You might want to go back and watch it. Okay, y'all, so Haggai was the king's unit. He put Haggai in charge of finding these young, pretty virgin women, right? Haggai saw Esther and favored her so much that he decided to give her 7 servants, and he also gave her the best living quarters and the best help and the best treatments because he wanted her to win the king's heart. So 12 months after they soaked in those oils and did their process, and each one of those virgins had to go meet the king at night, and they would come back in the morning every time one of them hit their 12 months of preparation. Esther was able to choose anything she wanted to choose to go have her one night with the king. Just like all the other women that had to go have their one night with the king. Haggai chose for her because he knew what the king liked and he knew what would work because he was the king's personal unit. I be want to call him an Enoch, but no, it's a unit. So she went in with the king. The Bible said he gave her grace and favor, and he chose her that night to be his wife. It took her a year of preparation, and that man spent one night with her and knew that she was it. He identified her as his queen. So Esther now was the queen. He called a party. He did a feast for her. Here we go doing the feast again. King must really like feast. He ran a feast. This is my wife. Claimed it as a holiday. And now you have Queen Esther. Now Mordecai, which raised her as his own, which was her cousin who took care of her, just used to just pace back and forth outside the gate to keep an eye on his daughter. And he overheard 2 of the gatekeepers of the king speaking about killing the king. So he told his daughter that, like, hey, 2 of these dudes got plans on killing your husband. And what she did was she went and told her husband, the king, that 2 of your servants planning on killing you. And it was told to me by Mordecai. She didn't tell him that Mordecai was her daddy / cousin. She just said Mordecai told me that he overheard these men trying to plot to kill you. Now, Esther was living it up. She was favored by the people that worked there. She had servants. She was now queen, but she could have let this plan go through and kill the king because she really was just swept off to be the queen's wife without permission. But she actually loved the king, so she saved his life. She heard from the grapevine what was going on through her people, through her connection. Her connection told her what was going on, and she told him, this is why when I say you get me and my connections, when we get married, you get what I got. Yeah, that saved the king's life. Good choice of choosing Esther. Nevertheless, the king had those dudes taken care of. Now, he also put somebody in charge right under him named Haman. Now, Haman was the king's right-hand man. Haman was walking around. He was above everybody except the king. So the king basically gave Haman this high position, and he was riding around through the city, and everybody was bowing down to Haman like, yo, this is the king's right-hand man. So they was bowing to him. But you know who didn't bow to him? Mordecai. Mordecai was Esther's daddy. Mordecai was Esther's cousin daddy. But he was a Jew. And it's against Jewish laws and rules to have anybody above. You don't bow to no man. Mordecai was like, I'm not bowing this fool. He's just another man. And according to God, we should have no other God above him. So Mordecai would just watch him go through and would not bow. And it bothered him because he was like, why this fool ain't bowing to me like everybody else? And somebody said it's because he's a Jew. Haman got angry and he hated Mordecai, not knowing that Mordecai was the queen's daddy. So he plotted against Mordecai, but it wasn't good enough for him to just kill Mordecai. He was like, oh, he a Jew? I'm gonna kill all the Jews. I'm not just gonna kill him. I'm gonna get him, his family, and everybody is connected to him and everything he loved. He had an evil heart and a high position. So Haman is now mad that Mordecai will not bow down to him, and everybody else did. But he realized that Mordecai won't do it because Mordecai is a Jew, and it's against the Jewish religion to bow down to anybody or anything or any idol except for God. There is only one God, and that is God. He wasn't finna bow down to him. So what Haman did was he went to the king and said, yo, homie, my servant dude. I don't know how he said it. He was just like, hey, it's a whole group of people that's living in your provinces that despise your laws and despise the things that you have. And they have all these different laws that go against your laws. And he didn't tell them it was the Jews. He told the king that it's a group of people that's against you and that will mess up stuff, and they have issues with your laws and your ways. And the king was like, what? Yeah, we got to get rid of them. Let's do something about it. So he's like, let me take cover. The king gave Haman his ring and said, I handle that. His ring is actually the signature. It solidifies whatever Haman does. It's solidified if he has that king ring and stamps it. So Haman writes a letter, had a scribe send out a letter to all 127 provinces saying, hey, on this day, we're going to kill all the Jews and all their children and all the babies, and we're just going to tear them up. Everybody just go to war and kill every Jew you know. Now, this was the first attempt of the Holocaust. The devil didn't stop there. He just wasn't successful at that time. He came back years later. So when I say the Bible has patterns and stuff that happened before, it just was stopped. That was the first attempt of the Holocaust. Nevertheless, that's what Haman did. But when Haman did that, that news got back to Mordecai later, and Mordecai realized that this nigga done put a hit on every Jew in all the 127 provinces. The kids, the Jews, the babies, the women, everything they own. It was such a hateful thing. All because he hated the fact that Mordecai would not bow down to him. He hated the fact that he was not looked at as a god to the Jews. His pride got him there. Now, guess what happened next? Now, when Mordecai found out about the assassination attempt that was put out there on the Jews, he was hurt. He was crying. He ripped his clothes. He was just having a fit outside the gates. They came and told Esther, hey, your guy, Mordecai, he out there tripping, something going on with him. And she's like, what's wrong with my daddy? She didn't tell him it was her daddy, but they knew that Mordecai and Esther was close to some degree. They just didn't know how or why. So they told her that he tripping. She told them, go ask him what happened. He told them to tell her, hey, this dude about to kill us all, and you got to do something. And when she found out what was done, she was like, I cannot say anything to the king, because if I get up and walk into the king's court, he can kill me immediately. It was against the law for her to go to the king unless he sent for her. And the cause of breaking that law was death. But what made it even more daring was the previous queen disrespected the king by breaking the law in front of everybody. So she's saying, you telling me to go and break this law and talk to the king about this? He gonna kill me on sight. That mean I disrespected him right after he was just disrespected by the first one. I can't do that. But then Mordecai said, fool, you a Jew. Don't you know that he put a hit on all the Jews had. They don't know you a Jew. You think you're going to escape this? You think at some point they not going to get you and they not going to realize that you really are a Jew? You going to die too, heifer. So either the king going to kill you or them fools going to kill you. You got a better chance at going to the king. And then he said, and if you don't do it, God gonna save the Jews anyway. We God's people. He not finna let this go down. But you end up dying and your bloodline will be cut off. And your father's descendants is cut off. Like you lose all of that. And she was scared. She wanted to save her people, but she thought saving her people would get her killed. But then she was like, screw it. If I die, I die. She listened to her cousin, and she said, if I perish, I perish. Her cousin Mordecai said, you know what? You may have been born for such a time as this. This may be your purpose. This is why you were brought into the kingdom. Now everything makes sense. You are the savior of the Jews. So she saved the king's life by letting him know that it was a hit on his head because her uncle told her. But now it was her job to save all the Jews. Not only the Jews, but herself. So she said, okay, listen, if I die, I die. I need all of y'all in this whole state to fast for 3 days, no food, no water. I'm going to fast for 3 days, no food, no water. And I'm going to have all my servants and my maids that's taking care of me fast, no food, no water. They did the fasting, praying for God. And then on that third day, she got up. She walked into the king's court. He sat there and looked at her. At that moment, he had to decide whether he was going to kill her or excuse it and or ask her to come to him. She had to get asked. Her just walking in there was going to get her killed. He saw his queen walk in that court, and he looked on her, and he extended his scepter to her and bid her to come. So he wasn't finna kill her. He really loved her. He really liked her. She had already saved his life. She had already saved his life, mind you. She had already let him know that it was a hit on his head. He wasn't finna kill her. He loved her. He favored her, and she had a grace for him. So he was like, what's going on? What you want? You can have anything, up to half of my kingdom. If she was a greedy, money hungry chick that was just there for the lavish, she could have forgotten everything. She came in there to tell the king, was like, I can have what? I can have half of your 127 provinces. I can have half all your money. He offered her half of everything he got. So she didn't ask the king for anything. At that time, she said, I got a dinner plan for you. I want you to come and bring your little friend Haman. He's like, oh, okay. The queen came and told me she got some food cooked. Oh, that was so sweet. She risked her life to feed me. Like it was a little sweet, you know. So he brought his friend with him. Like, okay. And Haman was like, yeah. So after this meal, they sat there and they ate. And the king was just like, hey, what's going on? You can have anything you want, up to half the kingdom. They sitting there drinking and eating. And she said, I just want to have dinner with you and your friend tomorrow again. And they was like, oh, okay. He was just like, oh, cool. My wife just want to chill. I don't know. So the next day, she had planned another banquet or dinner for Haman and the king. And Haman went home happy. He went home talking to his wife and his friends like, yeah, I done got this high position. Everybody bowing down to me. I got the king's ring and I'm walking around doing this and I'm in control. And a queen planned a dinner for me today and tomorrow. And the wife of Haman was just like, yeah, you know, you still killing that fool Mordecai, right? He was just like, yeah, that dude got to go. I don't like him. He won't bow to me. So the wife was like, yeah, you got to kill Mordecai. His friends was telling him that he should just hang him. And they told him to build these tall gallows and hang him on those things the next day, right? So they were also evil and had evil hearts and wanted to kill Mordecai. So Haman went back the next day, getting ready to tell the king, hey, let's hang Mordecai on these gallows. But what he didn't know is that same night, king couldn't sleep. So because he couldn't sleep, he opened the book and started reading the different stuff that went on in the kingdom, right? And he read that Mordecai was the one that told Esther that those two men was finna kill him. And he was like, dang, didn't nobody even do nothing for Mordecai. He the one told my wife to let me know that these dudes was trying to kill me. So when he woke up, he spoke to Haman. Haman was on his way to tell the king that he wanted to kill Mordecai that same day. Except the king came to Haman and said, hey, what should I do for a man that just deserves so much? I want to honor somebody. So Haman thought the king was wanting to honor him. So he said, yeah, you're going to get him a horse that you rode on, get him a rope that you wore, get him some chains that you wore, and have somebody walk him through the whole city stating, this is the man that the king honors. This is the man that the king put in position to be honored by everybody. Now, he thought the king was going to do that for him. So the king says, okay, cool. Go immediately and get a horse and get a robe and walk Mordecai through the city, proclaiming that this is a man that I honor. Probably could hear a pin drop. He was just about to tell the king, I'm going to kill Mordecai today. Instead, the king told Haman, you going to walk Mordecai around on that horse in my robe and with a crown on and with my stuff on and tell them that I honor this man. So he was pissed. He went back, had to do that. He went back home after all of that, and his wife was like, hey, this Mordecai the Jew dude, you think you finna get ready to kill him? You ain't gonna be able to kill him. It ain't gonna go well for you because now the people are respecting Mordecai. You can't kill him now. So he goes back to the banquet. He goes back to the dinner, sits down with the queen, all smiley, sits down with the king, and then the king sit down with day 2 of this feast. She had a meal prepared for them. He's like, okay, queen, what do you want? What's your petition? What do you want from me? Up to half the kingdom. He asked her again. And she said, I just want my life. He was like, what? Who's trying to kill you? She was like, him? Your homie that's sitting right next to you, Haman? He trying to kill me, my daddy, all my people, and my family. King looked at Haman, pissed. He was livid. He got up and walked off. He was so mad. Haman jumped up because he didn't know that Esther was a Jew until that moment. And then he was terrified because he knew he was going to die. He jumped up and was apologizing to Esther and said, please, please, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me. King came back. Now, at that point, Haman was so scared that he tripped and he fell on her. And the king was like, nigga, not you trying to assault my wife. He tripped and fell on her, but he thought that Haman was trying to get her or do something to her in the kingdom. So he really was crazily like going off. They snatched up Haman. So basically, I'm trying to cut it short because it's a lot. I love this story. This is like my favorite book of the Bible, y'all. Anyway, so basically, the king had Haman hung on the same gallows that Haman had set up to kill Mordecai. And then the king gave Mordecai Haman's position as second in command right under him and gave Mordecai Haman's house. And they also killed all of Mordecai's sons and his wife and his kids and his friends. They all died because the queen said, my second request is kill them all. Get rid of his family. Get rid of everybody he loved. Get rid of his 10 sons and his wife. All of them. So everything that he had planned to do to the Jews, the queen had done to him. Not only that, they couldn't stop the assassination attempt on the Jews because it was signed and sealed with the king's ring. So Mordecai wrote another letter stating that all the Jews come together and we finna fight to the death, and everybody that try to come for our head, they gonna die. But because Mordecai had been walked around town with the king's horse, wearing the king's robe and wearing the king's chain, people were afraid of him and they knew he meant business. So a lot of them backed out and said, we not finna fight with him. We ain't finna try to kill these dudes. And then some of them, a lot of them converted over to Jew. Now we're going to serve your God and do what you do because we going to serve you. When we saw you walk around on this horse and we saw you in this robe and we now know that you connected to the queen. It converted a lot of people to Jew. And everybody that still hated the Jews, that tried to kill the Jews annihilated them. They annihilated all of their enemies in all 127 provinces because of what Queen Esther did, because of her purpose. So she was beautiful. She was sweet. She was loving. She was wise. She was willing to die for her people. She was willing to die for a cause. But she also had to fight. She had to pray. She had to fast. She had to figure it out and strategize on how to protect her kingdom, her bloodline, her lineage. She cared about her family. She cared about her people. She cared about her cousin. She also cared about her king, her husband. And she converted a lot of people over to Jewish culture. And she also was the reason why the Jews had peace for so many years, because all of their enemies had been annihilated. They were taken out, over 75,000 of them, because of Queen Esther. And y'all, Queen Esther did all of that scared. She did all of that young. She did all of that without having anybody left behind but her cousin, because her dad was taken in exile and she had lost her mother and she had lost her real father. All she had was her cousin, and he raised her right, and he raised her how to be a virtuous woman, and he mentored her. He looked after her even in the palace. And because he did that, and because he was wise, and because she listened to his leadership and his guidance, it saved the Jews. It saved her life. It saved his life. It saved all of their lives. It also made them live out peacefully, because now all of our enemies are dead because of this. So it wasn't just sweet for her. She really had to be pretty and smart. It wasn't just easy. She really had to still pray and seek God. She still had to worry about her life being taken away from her. It probably was sweeter after all of that happened. But Esther had to do what Esther had to do and be integral and maintain the integrity of the crown, but still be her, but still maintain her relationship with God and honor God and do what God would have had to do. But it had to happen this way. She was born for this. This was her purpose for being born. So this is one of the only stories out of the women in the Bible. It's not the only one, but there's a few. But this was her born purpose. So she lived out her purpose, got a husband, got a ring, lived peaceful, was rich, and saved her people. This is why I love Esther, because Esther didn't think of herself. And that man offered her half of everything he had 3 times. She didn't accept it. She didn't say she wanted any of those riches or finance. She could have had the best horses and the best chains and the prettiest robes or whatever they were, and some fire sandals. She didn't ask for no sandals or none of that. She didn't ask for no bags and no purses and no extra crowns and no jewelry. She said, I want you to save my people. He offered her half of everything he had 3 times, and all 3 times she said, I just want you to come back tomorrow, eat with me again. I want you to bring your friend again. Then the 3rd time, I want you to save my life and save my people. That king knew that she wasn't on no bull crap. He knew that he had to keep her. He knew that she could have just been superficial and walked away and let everybody go and act like she wasn't a Jew. She could have played like she wasn't none of them. So that, you guys, is the book of Esther. It is one of my top 3 favorite books of the Bible. Esther, I love Genesis. I love Nehemiah. I love Daniel. Daniel was a real good book too. I might get off into Daniel at some point, but that one deep because he knew how to read dreams and he was very discerning. And Daniel was just different, y'all. He was just different.